Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Inside. It's raining outside again, so I apologize for the background noise. You'll probably hear some thunder and lightning. Now today we're looking at a D&D DM screen, Hoard of the Dragon Queen. This is a 5th edition Dungeon Master screen put out by Wizards of the Coast. I don't know if Gale Force 9 had anything to do with this. I don't think they did. This is product code 73701, and it's supposed to feature reference tables. Now, I was not a fan of the first screen they put out. I thought quality-wise it was well done. It just didn't have what I would have wanted on the screen. So let's see how this one stacks up to that. We've looked at some other screens since then. Curse of Strahd is probably the best one they put out so far, in my opinion. And we will look at other screens as well. I've got all of them that were produced, I think, so far. So if you haven't seen one posted, just give me a little time. It'll be up eventually. So, yeah, it's 21 centimeters tall by 110 centimeters long. Let's open it up. It's just held together by some cellophane. Some fairly high quality cellophane from the look of it. Now, 5th edition's been pretty cool so far. It's a very quality product, unlike some of the previous editions, in my opinion. But since Hasbro took over, they have done a good job with making quality, but they just don't produce enough, in my opinion. So this is just a sheet of paper. It's blank on the other side. If you're a diehard collector, you'll probably want to hang on to this for some reason. I'm sure there's somebody that'll want it. Otherwise, here we've got the dragon, and that is a pretty scary picture because that guy's not having a good day. It's a pretty well done painting, honestly. I think it's got a lot of poster worthiness to it, so it's cool they put it on the screen. It's the cover of the book too. Here we've got a house. It doesn't really fit the theme. And here we've got a castle, which looks really cool. It says Tyranny of Dragons down there. Pretty cool looking. Got a little rampart up here, a little observatory for some reason. I read the adventure book, but I don't remember it. And this is a problem that I don't like. You heard that pop? That was the gloss and the glue sticking together. I'm seeing this one for the first time too, so I don't like that. Let's see how this side is. Yep, the glue from the corners here kind of bled out and stuck to that. The gloss is really cheap. It's got that cheap trading card gloss. And right here I can feel where it's stuck to the other side and peeled off some of the gloss. So, that means this was stored at a slightly higher than room temperature setting. This is just like trading cards or comic books. You'll want to keep it in a cool, dry place. Not moist and not hot, because this gloss is really garbage and will come off. This is not as high quality as I would like it to be, honestly. So let's take a look at the full picture here. It's part of the cover picture. It's just zoomed in. It still looks really good. It's a very nice painting. I don't know who did the art, but it is really cool. And this image is really cool too. Doesn't really fit the theme though with Tyranny of Dragons. I would have liked to have seen another dragon image here. Maybe have like a wraparound with some other characters that were fighting this dragon other than this poor soul. And same thing with this other side. When it's up, it's a 4-panel screen, which is the right length. I'm getting a nice reverb, so I'm sorry about that if you're getting that on the recording. It's the right height. I actually prefer them to be slightly taller, so I could stick an 8.5 by 11 sheet up, because it's only about half a page, and I used to paperclip everything to my screens. I've modified that since because a lot of the games I play don't have screens. But I would have liked to have it had a little, more this side height. But I can live with this. It's just easier for people to peek over, which I don't like. I don't like everybody knowing what I'm doing behind the screen because it's usually goofing off and doodling. Now here we've got various charts, which seem fairly useful. You got your paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, little cheap references. That's cool. The art's pretty, but I'd rather have another chart down here. You could put a small chart right here, real easily, not hard. This cultist enemies, that's worthless. This is player information. If you want to describe these guys, sure, okay, maybe it's a little useful then, but it's extraneous information where charts or graphs or tables could easily go. I would much rather have any necessary tables on here so I don't have to look them up in the book, or monster stats, have a picture of a bad guy with their stats. That would be cool. But we just have random pictures. There's no stat boxes, which would have been way more helpful. Even just general stats, like, all right, on average, this is the range these guys have. But I get that a lot of people don't like that stuff, but I find that a little more useful personally. On this side, we've got some more charts. It's got episodes 1, 3, 4. There's some more 4, episode 5, episode 6 charts, encounters charts mostly. Yeah, that is super useful. I like that. That's what I want more of. See, this space here, while it is a very pretty picture, is kind of useless. I would rather, if you're going to have charts, expand on the information, give me some other useful information detailing about people, major characters, what they look like, that sort of thing. Something useful other than just a pretty picture that was cut and paste from the book. That's lazy. That is incredibly lazy. It's pretty, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful art, but it's unnecessary to the inside of a GM screen. And as a former DM, I would have stuff taped over this in about 3 minutes. I would obliterate this screen because this is not functionally useful to me for quick reference. The books are laid out well, don't get me wrong, but if there's a chart or a table or anything I need to roll on, or a monster stat, I want it on the screen instead of a piece of art. Art is for the players on the outside. The GM doesn't need to see this every single time. And your Dungeon Master is a busy guy, he's got a real life. Don't waste his time. Same thing here. These are cute character profiles, but they tell me nothing about the characters. It says allies, it's got their name, but there's no stats. There's no description of what they're armed with. Like, okay, she's got a staff, but does she have a dagger? Does she have potions? Is that a dude or a chick? Oh, it's a dude. He's got a goatee. That chick has a goatee. But yeah, I don't know what their equipment is, what their stats are. Any of that information would have been nice. Or just make these maps bigger. These maps are pretty cool. They're pretty useful. They could have been twice the size. Get a little more detailing in there. Yeah, see, there's a number chart here with some numbers. Those would have been more legible if they were twice the size. So, like here we have the left map with some numbers. Well, I can barely see the numbers on here. So double the size of this, have it take up half of this, get rid of these guys, put this map on there and make the key a little bigger. Maybe, like it says a keep, like who's the proprietor of these establishments? There's a tunnel to the keep, temple, who's in charge of the temple? That could have been on there. That's useful information. This is a waste of space. And look at all this white space around them that is just completely wasted. That's frustrating. This is useful for these two maps and these charts. That's about it. This is not worth the full price they're asking for. There's too much wasted space. A graphic designer had to have done this, not somebody that actually plays the game. They need to consult people that actually play the game to make these. The ones put out by Gale Force 9 in association with WOTC are way better. They still have a few of the same problems, but they're much better. The quality of this is really good too. It's a nice thick board. It'll hold up well. It's way better than the cardboard ones from the 80s and 90s, even the 70s. So the thickness is right. The quality is there. It's beautifully done art, but the information is half useless. Like, look at all this space they're wasting with pointless artsy images. Yeah, they're pretty, but I'm not going to need any of that information. What am I going to need a character portrait for? If I don't have his stats there, that's useless to me. I can look at his picture in the book. I don't need that. If you're going to put the picture, have his stats there. So I can reference that faster. Make these maps bigger instead, so that I can see where this stuff is. Are these people in these areas? I don't know. I can't find that on the fly. I have to look that up. It's in the book. And on this side, again, my complaint would be this entire panel is worthless to me. There's no stats. Doesn't tell me what equipment it is that they have. Sometimes what they're pictured with isn't necessarily what they're armed with or have at the moment. So this is a waste of my time. This entire panel might as well not even be there. It's pretty is about it. And this image is cool, but again, another table there would have been nice. Some sort of like random encounter chart or something like that would have been handy. I know a lot of people complain about the way I judge these, but I'm judging it based on how I play and how my groups play over the years, and that information is more critical than some art. But if you're a player, this is very pretty. There's a dragon up here, that's cool, but I would have put something different than a house. Having a dragon on here would have been a little bit better, I think. The castle looks really cool, but again, could have been a dragon. The monsters look a lot cooler on these things. Or you know, put the hero profiles, put these on here with this. Like, have those guys in the foreground of these images. That would have been cooler. Or just have them in an action scene or something. That would have been awesome. The painting from the cover of the book is really cool, but it does look strangely incomplete because the tip of the wing's cut off, and it's really not cropped very well in my opinion from like a photography perspective. It's not cropped real well, like his arm over here is kind of cut off. So it's a cool image, it's on the cover of the book, but I don't mind this. This is fine. This is pretty cool looking, very detailed. I dig that. But the interior images are a giant waste of time. It's not that useful of a screen, honestly. It has useful aspects that you could have just hand-drawn from the book or copied out of it, and it would have been just as good. Overall, I'd give it a middle grade, however you want to do that. 3 out of 5, 5 out of 10, C-. It's an okay screen. It's somewhat better than their original screen. I know there is a revised screen out. I don't have that one yet. I'll get it as soon as I get a chance and some extra cash, and we'll review that one. Hopefully it's a vast improvement over the original screen and this one. This one's okay. This one's a step up in the right direction, but it's still not as good as the Gale Force 9 ones, but it is better than the original. So the original 5th edition screen, again, I think that was total garbage. This one's much better. Like I said, it's got that same good quality to it, but the gloss is a little cheap. It probably isn't going to hold up over time, as far as like the gloss is going to come off and the image probably get ruined. But it should last you a few years if you take care of it. It's a pretty decent screen. The thickness is its main benefit, and it's the right size. I'd like it a little taller, but I'm old school in that regard. A lot of the younger players don't care about that. And if you want to hand stuff over the screen, it's perfect height for that. So I'd give this a very hesitant recommendation. It's a pretty nice screen overall, but the interior stuff, I would just cover half of that up. Both the side panels would just get covered up with something more useful, and I'd destroy this thing. But that's my assessment of this. I'll try it out at some point and see how it works when next time I'm running D&D. But I think I'm going to be just frustrated with the complete one side of it being worthless, and I'll have a bunch of stuff taped over it. But that'll do it for this episode. That's the Dungeon Master screen for Hoard of the Dragon Queen for 5th edition. This one is for the Hoard of the Dragon Queen adventure, part of the Tyranny of Dragons, followed by the Rise of Tiamat, which I don't think this screen would be very useful all for, but it'll still function. But that'll do it for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel and listening to my rantings and ravings. And I hope to see you on the next episode of What's Inside.